And I just wanted to welcome everybody to Windaba 2021. Scottish Development International is the international trade and investment arm of the Scottish Government. And this is our first actual renewables focused conference and event on the African continent from SDI. So really pleased to be undertaking this event. And we're really delighted that we've got 10 companies and organizations who have expressed interest in learning more about the energy related opportunities in South Africa. We want to take this opportunity and this event and indeed other events to sort of promote Scotland. We have a history, we have a pioneering spirit around energy. We're increasingly focused now in areas such as offshore wind, floating offshore wind. We really want to, highlight our capabilities in that area. We want to show our supply chain capabilities, our world-class academic record, our universities, our collaboration between industries and universities, and our research organizations. So once again, I just wanted to thank everybody for getting involved in today's event or Windaba 2021. I want to thank my colleagues Ian and Laura in particular for making all this happen. And I wish everybody involved in Windaba 2021 all the very best. Thank you very much.
Most of you will be aware of the fact, I'm sure most of you will be aware of the fact that we also have COP26 being hosted in Glasgow, Scotland in November. We're extremely excited about the fact that not only is COP26 going to be hosted in Scotland, but that COP27 is going to be hosted on the African continent. We are doing a lot as Scottish Development International and the various business networks that focus on Africa and Scotland jointly to promote the link between COP26 and COP27. We're going to be having a couple of events later on in the year and early next year to promote that link and also to promote additional partnerships and existing partnerships between Scotland and South Africa. And I've got a short video that I'd love for you just to watch a little bit more about the Let's Do Net Zero footprint brand campaign by Scottish Development International.
Climate emergency. So Scotland has committed to reduce emissions to reach net zero by 2045 and earlier than many. We'll get there in a way that's equal, fair, and creates new opportunities. We've written that into law. And we're guaranteeing a job, education, or training to everyone aged 16 to 24. We're protecting peatlands and creating new woodlands to make the most of our natural carbon capture potential. In 2 years, we've planted 22,000 hectares of trees, an area nearly 4 times the size of Loch Ness, and we're investing in sustainable economic growth. In 2020, the equivalent of over 95% of the electricity we used came from renewables. Our floating wind farm is the world's first. As we recover from the pandemic, we'll strive to make Scotland fairer and greener. And with the UN Climate Summit COP26 this November in our city of Glasgow, we'll play our part to achieve lasting action that gets us all to net zero.
And one last welcome, which I'm really excited about, is just a video from 2 of South Africa's Springboks who are currently in Scotland, getting ready to both play for the Stormers and of course for the end of year tour. And they've sent us a little video just to welcome the delegates today.
Hi everyone back home, it's Karen here and Sergio Peterson. Yeah, hope you guys are enjoying the Windaba down in Cape Town. We're actually on our way to Scotland tomorrow. We're on our way to Edinburgh. Yeah, and I think very excited and thankful for the optimism in our country from the Scottish Development International. And I hear it's your first time exhibiting in South Africa, so thank you very much. Claire, my friend, good luck with everything that's happening that side. And thank you for everything. And yeah, I'll bring you something from Scotland.
Hey Claire, it's Sergio Scalfrey. That was my attempt to Scottish accent. Thanks guys. Cheers.
Cool. So just a video from Sergio and Scara, just welcoming everybody, and it's just a little bit of an informal welcome as well to just make sure we're not as sort of formal as we don't want to run a very formal session today, in the sense that we would love for you to engage with us, to ask questions at the end. And without further ado, I'm going to launch into our first focus area, and that is wind energy and the energy transition question. We have 2 presentations from 2 companies today. first being Wood Group. Wood is recognized in the engineering, procurement and construction sector. They have a number of operations in Africa, as well as, of course, being a very well recognized brand name globally. The company, of course, was well known for their operations in the oil and gas sector, but has been looking at the focus around making things possible and specifically focusing on the energy transition question. And although, of course, because of the restrictions around travel from the UK to South Africa up until yesterday, which is great, Wood has submitted a pre-recorded video, as well as following by National Oil Well VARCO, NOV. Again, also a company that has made a serious commitment to looking at the energy transition space. Both companies are again, active in Africa and are very much looking for new opportunities, particularly in the renewable space. And we're excited to present from them this morning. So without further ado.
We see the energy that makes us life. The energy turns on the lights and heats our homes, that cooks our meals and transports us to new places. The energy that powers our industry, creates life-saving products, and builds the world where you thrive. We see that as populations grow and countries develop, the demand for energy continues. But we know this energy needs to be sustained so that future generations can thrive too.
It's why we're unlocking solutions to make energy cleaner, more efficient, and more accessible.
Reducing emissions, optimizing renewables, and enabling new fuels for the future. With a global team of inquisitive thinkers, our bold spirit drives us to lead this charge. Together, we are seeking new possibilities to improve the world today and tomorrow.
And then the second video on the energy transition from NOV.
Welcome to Windaba. I'm Les Forster. I'm NOV's Aftermarket Services Manager for renewables in the UK. Currently based in Forster in Scotland. I'm delighted to be taking part in Scotland's wind energy presentations today within a global energy. That we currently have in place or are providing. Wind turbine installation vessels, we're a market leader in wind turbine installation vessels currently. New builds, we are the complete solutions provider from green vessel design to our Gusto MSC division. We could do SOVs, cable lay, hybrid equipment provision and systems layout. An inclusion of NOV equipment such as cranes, etc., jacking systems. and we could repurpose existing vessels and rigs, or provide offshore installation support and a complete life cycle support. For onshore offerings, we have a helical well design for a wind turbine column, as well as a provision of a jack-up demountable crane for heavy lift for wind turbine installation kit, which is able to be demounted and transferred in smaller units, so it can easily be sent into regions or areas where it's difficult to have a traditional heavy lift crane transfer. For offshore Tri-Floor assembly, we're currently in talks with the various offshore UK clusters regarding provision of a design and delivery of a floating wind turbine platform, which includes our other offerings of our mooring systems. We have a track record of 8+ complete mooring system deliveries, mainly in harsh environments, water depths ranging from 12 to 2,500 meters. We could, so we have inclusion of anchors, mooring line, and connectors. Our tension and connectors through our BLM division, providing of offshore mooring equipment since 1970, including tensioners, wire, rope and chain, deck stoppers, fair leads, conventional, and also fair lead chain stoppers. A varied offering. Composite engineering, piping and structures. We have lightweight and corrosion resistance for piping and ladders and gratings, handrails, etc. Low CO2 footprint through the reduced CO2 emissions during manufacturing. The improved safety of the metallic equivalents, and we have durability of 30 years lifespan plus with our recent acquisition of Bondstrand, which is offering enhanced safety and integration capacity, and it's also has a 60+ years proven life cycle. So cable lay systems, again through our Gusto MSE, we could provide a complete solutions provider for new build green vessels, SOVs, cable lay, hybrid equipment provision, system layout, but also modular systems for multi-purpose capability on new and previously built SOVs and vessels. For the expansion of hydrogen, which we see taking part after for the offshore wind, once that takes off, we'll see that being generated in renewable energy, and the energy storage has also become a key point of interest. You know, for we provide pipes and storage for future add-on of hydrogen ammonia. Flexible pipes for hydrogen, subsea storage for ammonia as a hydrogen carrier, and then sea box water treatment. We have this ability for large-scale gigawatt offshore electrolysis, and this has been rigorously tested and tried in various locations. So if we look at aftermarket for the obviously aftercare, so all operations and maintenance and support and installation, etc. We look to be a life cycle partner for any offerings. So we could engineer and build, we could manufacture. We have a training, education services division, QA fully certified. We have a global supply chain already in most areas. We have an installation and commissioning services we can offer, along with project management, turnkey solutions if required. A global technical service and support system, which is can give you over the horizon 24/7 support. Spares logistics is already in place in most of our locations and can be built up to support offshore and onshore wind and renewable sector. Or any equipment and package upgrades, we can provide that through our engineering, field engineering division. And carry that out through our onshore support, and then obviously operations and maintenance for the whole life cycle of the equipment, including we could bring in we could bring in drone inspections or AOV, ROV inspections, etc., as an add-on if required by the customer. So we see ourselves as connected systems and people. We have the added support of our 24/7 localized services. We have across the horizon or beyond the horizon capability of monitoring systems through our real-time data acquisition monitoring system, the CBM programs, and both remote access systems or robust systems. I mean, we're looking to leverage our Max platform, the Edge platform, where we could provide sensors, we can manufacture, install, provide the sensors, aggregate, collect the data, aggregate the data, carry out analytics, provide it to the cloud, and provide the data visualization to both customers, wind farm operators, and ourselves. Allow that analytics to be carried out and to provide some real-time information to allow ourselves and the customer to make educated decisions on whether we repair, we can, and also have a look at the performance of any wind turbines at that point in time. So we can see the degradation as to whether we need to send out and have some intervention. So it's been a quick whirlwind through this, but I'm conscious that I only have something like 8 minutes. So at NOV, we obviously understand that there's changes in the wind, and NOV is the vision and fully engaged to take part in a global energy transition. And we hope to, go on that transition with many and many customers, either through customers or collaborations, and we hope that they will see you in the future. So if there's any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to myself, les.forster@nov.com, or through the Windaba site, or in fact the local South African support group from Oliver Romer, Gunther Winger, and Thomas Fisher. So again, thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the event. Take care. Goodbye.
Thanks so much, Les from NOV. And I think that it's a great point to just link the two, like sort of the concept of energy transition in Scotland and what they have achieved as a country with the sort of next session in terms of education and training. So it was only a couple of years ago that Scotland as a country, in terms of their energy mix, was majority powered by oil and gas, fossil fuels. And while they obviously have been looking at new technologies and adopting those technologies in terms of reducing carbon footprint, being more sustainable in terms of their energy mix, I think one of the videos on COP26 spoke about the fact that Scotland as a country had over 95% of their energy generation from renewables in 2020. But according to Scottish Renewables, that figure was actually closer to 98% last year. And so it does go to show the value of a country making aggressive targets or objectives that they want to achieve in terms of the energy transition. And so what we are looking to do is also address the question around the skills transfer and the education and training space. And it is no secret that people working in the oil and gas sector in countries like Scotland and of course the UK as a whole are just as concerned about how they look to transition themselves from the fossil fuel sector into renewables. And a number of companies in Scotland who again already have a presence in South Africa, as well as some of those that are going to be presenting this morning, have a number of solutions in terms of technology, innovation, adapting skills and training courses from oil and gas to being more renewables focused. And so I think, in fact, actually, there was a report recently in the UK media that on average, a worker that is currently in the oil and gas sector spends approximately £1,200 of their own money to train and upskill themselves in order to be able to meet the requirements of the energy transition. Now, that's quite a scary statistic. It shows that people are as concerned about being able to transition in the skill space, find a job in the renewables market, as we find in countries like South Africa. And of course, as a country, South Africa is no stranger to the fact that we've got coal, the coal sector truck drivers, complaining about, well, how do we look at finding jobs in the renewables if South Africa creates a diversified energy mix? And that's the point of the companies that we're going to hear from this morning. So I'm going to then welcome Ian Macmillan, the managing director from Safer Training. Safer Training also has a joint venture partnership with the Offshore Africa Training Center. And Ian's going to speak a little bit more about what they're doing in terms of the energy transition, as well as the skills and training aspects that they focus on. So Ian, if you would like to come up.
Thanks, Laura. It's great to be here. And after the news of South Africa being removed off the red list last night, I can get home a bit quicker. Safer have had a presence in South Africa since 2014 with our local partners, Offshore Africa Training Center. And whilst historically our focus has been on training and competence around oil and gas, we've been actively following the renewables market within South Africa for that time. I think so. You know, is there a need for training? Yeah, training skills and competence. If you think of the UK and obviously Scotland and the other parts there are 51 training providers providing internationally GWO accredited training. Yeah. In sub-Saharan Africa, anybody want to hazard a guess how many training centers there are? 6. Actually, only 7 in the whole of Africa continent. Yeah. So that's quite a scary statistic. Yeah. But it also means that there's a lot of opportunities here for organizations. And whilst I was listening yesterday to the other speakers about the difficulties and challenges around getting investment into South Africa and maintaining presence and everything else, you know, the wind power and energy sector is not new to South Africa. Yeah, but it does remain very much an emerging market. As such, this provides companies such as Safer Training and our partners opportunities to invest in the country in the development of facilities and people, and make approved training available to individuals and companies looking to enter and, you know, service this energy sector as we go forward. You know, this is one of the things that Safer is certainly looking at doing with our partners here. You know, we've moved into new premises this year, which will now afford us the opportunity to move into this space and make that training available and be part of the journey of South Africa as it moves into that energy transition. Yeah, you know, you'll see later on there's a number of other videos that will come up, and from this, you know, there's Laura was talking about collaboration and working together, and there's a number of these companies that we're working with around technology, such as Riot Digital and these others, to look at alternative ways or means of training, yeah, that removes the risk to individuals, enhances it so it's not just conventional training, and utilizing technology for the benefit of everybody. So, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ian. One of the companies that speaks to the technology and innovation aspects, specifically commercializing technologies into the private sector and working alongside industry, is an organization that you're going to hear from this morning called the European Marine Energy Centre Limited, or EMEC Limited. This organization particularly excites me because they do a huge amount of work in the Orkney Islands around wind energy testing facilities, as well as linking that to the hydrogen question, or the hydrogen value chain. And so Dr. James Walker is going to be doing a brief presentation this morning on the hydrogen sort of business development opportunities that they are focusing on, as well as the link between wind energy. And I think the one thing I would like to just make a mention of, and something that we would also welcome conversation on a little bit later after the presentations, is the fact that the Orkney Islands are seeing substantial economic benefits as a result of looking at renewables on a, if I could say, insulated economy. It's an island, of course. It doesn't necessarily sort of have massive links to mainland Scotland, but because of the testing facilities, because of the link to hydrogen, the area itself is seeing those positive economic benefits, and I think that that's something that's really applicable in terms of the considerations for South Africa. So without further ado, I'm going to let us hear from Dr. James Walker.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm James Walker. I'm the Hydrogen Development Manager at EMEC based in Orkney. And I'm going to talk through just some of our recent hydrogen research and development activities and the capabilities that I like to think that means we can offer to potential partners like yourselves. But I'd like to take the opportunity before I get started, just to thank the organisers for having me along, and also thank you very much to Laura from SDI for the opportunity to speak to you today. So without further ado, we are EMEC, that's the European Marine Energy Centre. We're based in Orkney, and that's an island archipelago in the far north of Scotland, as you can see on the map. There are around 70 islands in the archipelago, of which 20 are inhabited, and we're surrounded in this area by abundant natural energy resources in the form of wind, wave, tides. And really our work focuses on understanding how we can better take advantage of that to deliver a clean and reliable energy system for the future. So what you see in the images on the right-hand side are a series of activities that we've undertaken at the sites that you see identified on the map. So the first row of images shows marine energy devices. We've tested more of those on our sites than anywhere else in the world. And that's a really exciting opportunity for any coastal or island environment. We've also been heavily involved in hydrogen research and development for reasons I'll come on to, and that's what you see in the second row of images. So we've developed a hydrogen production and handling system in the islands. And then in terms of some of the third row of images, we've also looked at how you might best use hydrogen in that island environment. So how you best tackle the decarbonisation of certain lifeline services and key sectors. And I'm going to talk through some of that this afternoon. I'll keep doing that because it's morning while I'm recording. So really in terms of hydrogen, it's worth understanding why we think hydrogen is interesting and why it's hopefully relevant to yourselves as well. So what this slide tries to show is a view of the Orkney energy system really. So on the left-hand side in the two graphs, you see the difference between the demand for power in Orkney and the potential to produce power in Orkney. So the green generation shows we've got vastly more potential to generate power than we have capability to use it in terms of the blue. And really hydrogen is a possible means of storing some of that power. So if we power our electrolyzers using otherwise curtailed renewable power, then really it's quite a nifty way of storing some of that energy for later use. On the right hand side, you see some of the key applications that we see in the island environment. So I'll focus really here today on the three at the bottom. We look really for hydrogen as a key means of decarbonising heavy duty transport in the area. So I'm going to focus on the aviation and the maritime sectors in my latter presentation, but we also try to look at the broader system impacts of using hydrogen. And again, we'll touch on that. So just to run through briefly what we do in terms of hydrogen, it's quite a dizzying picture, I know, a very busy slide, but essentially I break this down into three categories. So in the first instance, a lot of our early work and indeed the thing that sustains the rest of the work is making hydrogen. So we look at how you can most efficiently make hydrogen using inputs from both community wind, that's onshore wind, and also wave and tidal devices that we test on our site. But then having made hydrogen, having deployed an electrolyzer and actually made the stuff, we needed to think about how we were going to move it around, how we were going to store it, and how we were going to make it available for use. And that led to developing a number of technical storage and handling solutions with partners I'm going to talk about this afternoon. And then also in the third bucket, the bigger bucket really, we've looked at a number of different demand side applications for hydrogen. So we're testing a whole host of different opportunities to use hydrogen to decarbonize these essential services that I mentioned. So that takes in, to some extent, road transport. So we have some range extender vans in the area. We're also looking, as I mentioned, at aviation and maritime. But we've also had some really cool projects actually looking at broader uses. So the image here, this one, is a distillery in the area. So we looked at whether or not we could use hydrogen to decarbonize the distillery's operations. And then we've also looked at the harbour. So we looked at whether or not hydrogen can provide power to vessels while they're in dock. And that's a useful opportunity in an island environment as well. So the focus of this talk and this session is on capability. So I'm going to talk through some of the key focus areas and what that means that we've, in terms of skills that we've developed and services that we can offer to potential partners. One of the key things that I think characterizes our work is this view of Orkney as a hydrogen energy system, essentially. So it's a little bit premature to call it a hydrogen economy. We don't necessarily have any view of a commercial reality for this yet, but we have, with partners locally, developed a fairly extensive network of hydrogen related activities that come together to be something bigger than the sum of their parts. So that's what I'm trying to show here. So we make hydrogen in our site up here on Edie, and we transport it down to the Orkney mainland, where it's used, as I mentioned, in the vans. It's also used at the harbour. And this represents a fairly significant amount of logistical effort and skills development in terms of understanding how you handle hydrogen in that environment. And I think that's quite useful experience. I'll come on to how we're using that to support projects elsewhere. The other thing that it's worth pointing out in terms of that picture or that landscape is just the degree of complexity. So on our own site, on ED that I mentioned, we test tidal turbines offshore. We have a community-owned wind turbine in the vicinity. We're looking to deploy flow batteries later this year. And then we have an existing electrolyzer that's being upgraded. We're also due to receive a second electrolyzer. And to my mind, what that means is a really complex energy system that we're learning how to operate efficiently and how to manage and maintain safely as well. That's such a key aspect. And I think that this operates really as an excellent lab. Basically, we can do a lot of testing and demonstration here, and we can do some fundamental research about these control systems and even business models as to how you operate these bits of equipment together in an integrated system. I think that's a key capability, a key opportunity I wanted to touch on. On the demand side, though, I mentioned I was going to focus on aviation and then on maritime. So we've been involved in a couple of projects, the High Flyer 1 and High Flyer 2 projects, which are looking at hydrogen fuel cell powered aviation. And our role in that is to look at the hydrogen production, storage and refueling in that airfield environment. And we've learned an awful lot about navigating the landscape of regulation around aviation. And I think that's hopefully relevant anywhere really where aviation is a key sector for connectivity. And our key capability out of that is understanding how you safely refuel an aircraft using hydrogen, which I hope is quite relevant. We've also been working in shipping. So this is key, as you can imagine, in an island environment. And I think in most coastal areas, shipping and maritime activity is important. So it's a key sector for us to tackle. It's also a really dirty sector. It's inherently a heavy fuel using sector with heavy emissions, and therefore a real prize for us in terms of decarbonisation. So we've been involved in a project called Hydyne. We supported that project in terms of the test and demonstration activities. And what that project was looking to do was retrofit an existing passenger ferry with a hydrogen diesel hybrid engine and test and demonstrate that safely. So we haven't quite gotten to where we wanted to be. The regulatory context wasn't quite ready to accept the type of activity we were looking to undertake. But we've learned a lot from that process. We have a much better understanding of how you can safely use hydrogen on board a vessel and in that heavily regulated maritime environment. And more importantly, what I want to draw attention to is the training that was undertaken through that project. So the University of Highlands and Islands, Orkney College, developed a training course for mariners that looked at how you safely bunker and then handle hydrogen on board a vessel. And we were really delighted to support that using our own facilities in Kirkwall. So we showed some of the mariners around, showed them what you can and can't do in terms of hydrogen. And that was a really useful experience for everyone involved, I think. And it was a world first. So hopefully the first of many courses and one that we could offer to anyone who was interested in learning a bit more about hydrogen in the maritime environment. We're also supporting projects elsewhere. So we're taking the experience that we've developed in Orkney, and we're taking our understanding of the Orkney energy system, and we're applying that to islands and other territories elsewhere. I wanted to draw attention to the project we undertook in Malawi. It was called Pitches with Community Energy Malawi and others. And that was looking at the role for hydrogen in a fully off-grid context, looking at how you would resiliently power a hospital. I just thought it was a useful example, slightly closer to where you all are today. But we've also been looking at how this story might be replicated in energy systems across Europe, thinking predominantly about islands, not exclusively, and just providing some input, some technical support and some regulatory support, because we've navigated an awful lot of regulation to take the projects forward as we have. And hopefully this could be replicable to yourselves, wherever you're sitting, in terms of supporting projects nearer to you. We've also been heavily involved in a fair range of more consultancy oriented activities, so looking to support technology development and also broader innovation. So The couple of examples I've highlighted here, we're very, very focused on floating wind at the moment. It's such an emerging offshore renewable energy sector that it would be remiss of us not to. So we're looking closely at the role for hydrogen to integrate floating wind. Then also in the latter section here on the bottom, we've, through a couple of Interreg projects, it's a European Union funding scheme, we've worked with partners, again, across Europe to look at how hydrogen can play a role in broader commercialization of, in this case, also floating wind production, floating wind turbines. So we're really looking at the role that hydrogen plays in unlocking broad energy system decarbonisation. I'll just close by saying that everything I've shown you there is a team effort. We work very closely with partners from, at the moment, all over Europe, certainly in the marine energy, all over the world, and really keen to continue to build relationships and reach out to potential further partners to see what more interesting work we can undertake. So very much welcome any thoughts you might have on ways we might work together. And with that, I'll close. I'll leave my email address here, and I look forward to the discussion in the Q&A that follows. Thank you very much for listening, and thanks again for having me today.
Thanks, James, from EMEC. So we've got 2 more presentations on the energy education and training aspect, as well as the technology. 2 videos, firstly from Riot Digital, Ian mentioned the fact that they are obviously working with the sort of technology applications in terms of virtual and augmented reality. Some incredible applications. David's going to laugh at me, but I am going to warn you, he does speak quite fast and he does have an accent. But please, again, just have a look at the visuals. And if you do have any questions about Riot, you're more than welcome to ask at the end. So without further ado, the video from Riot and the video from University of Strathclyde. And just to make a note, there is no audio in the University of Strathclyde, but there are subtitles.
Riot Digital create virtual reality training solutions for clients right across the energy sector. We work closely with partners including Denso and Lenovo to help these clients meet their local content obligations for the countries they work in. Wind energy is a particularly demanding area with complex training requirements around a number of areas. Virtual reality allows a safe, practical training into confined hazardous work scenarios, particularly the many electrical engineering and maintenance requirements within wind turbine nacelles. Storing generated energy as hydrogen is particularly hazardous and requires a detailed knowledge of the controls and systems, which can be taught safely in virtual reality, like filling and manual valve operation as shown here. All training operations are continuously monitored and shared. This means that trainees, instructors and assessors located anywhere in the world can join each other live in these virtual training environments. Sound and vision are just part of the picture. True training requires familiarity with actual controls, interfaces and environments, for which we have a range of different physical simulators, VR and screen-based environments. Heavy machinery requires sensitive control to navigate around obstacles, which our simulators train into the operator. Force feedback allows these operators to feel the movement and reactions of the machinery that they control. So we've made sure that our simulators do the same, ensuring the operators are familiar with the feeling of their system, as well as the sight, sound, and sequence of tasks that they'll be undertaking in the real world. Riot Digital are based in Scotland and work all over the world. Contact us at solutions@riotdigital to learn more.
So you saw the slide from University of Strathclyde on the project Romeo. And something that's really interesting there is that they've been modeling about the test facilities around lowering the cost of both offshore, well, specifically offshore wind for the European market, which I know is a big question for South Africa going forward. And if we are to look at offshore wind in South Africa as an opportunity, then I know that that is something that the South African government, the policymakers, and the companies involved in research and innovation, the companies in the supply chain, and of course in enterprise development have a key sort of interest in lowering the cost and making sure that offshore wind is something that is able to be competitive. So without further ado, I'm going to go into the third and final session, the wind energy and supply chain opportunities. We are going to hear from two companies, two short videos, Craig International in the logistics and freight forwarding. Again, Craig International is no stranger to the energy sector as a whole, a company that originated in Scotland and now has a significant presence in South Africa through their subsidiary Craig International South Africa Pty Limited. And I think the exciting thing there is that, again, although they were a company traditionally focused on oil and gas, they've made a concerted effort to move into the energy transition space, and they now work in the wind and solar industries across South Africa. They have a short video that we're going to hear next.
Craig International offers an effective and efficient alternative to in-house procurement by combining our global buying power, geographic locations, and proven track record in delivering cost reductions. We provide a high-quality outsourced service. Our online procurement catalog, eBuy, allows our clients to access over 70,000 products across 1,000 categories and is supported by Smart Buyer, the virtual super efficient procurement team.
Then the second video from a company called FNVI Limited. They work in the project management space and so are actively looking at partnerships with respect to renewable energy and the energy sector across sub-Saharan Africa.
My name is Danny McGlade and I'm a Principal Director of FNVI. The company was formed by myself and business partners in 2014 for the specific purpose of creating digital workflow enhancement and data management software, which can be used in logistics too. We're based in Inverness in Scotland, that's our first base, and we're also based in Middlesbrough in the northeast of England. We have an international portfolio of clients. The principals of the company have extensive experience in project engineering, logistics, project management, mainly within, but not confined to, the oil and gas international arena. Now today, I want to talk about technology, digital technology that is, and despite today's rapidly developing technology era, there is still many companies that do not use data as the main basis for decision making. The biggest obstacle to creating a data-driven business is not the technology, but the culture. To create the correct culture requires cooperation and commitment of all the parties to make it the default mindset. The importance of data-driven culture is absolutely paramount to succeeding amongst smart competition. And so to the challenge of workflow and data management. Firstly, we need to recognize that we have data management challenges. And if so, do we wish to address them? When we need to decide, then we need to decide how we go about doing so. As we know, all major companies expend a great deal of time and effort, and for that you can read money in collecting, validating, disseminating, and distributing of data. And this is often in the form of enormous amounts of paper. Now, by embracing the digitalization of management workflow systems, we are able to eliminate a vast amount of paper produced on a daily basis, and of course, the associated costs that result from managing it. So how do we do this? How do we fix this problem? So our proposal is to use the Accord system. It's unique in many ways. One of the main attributes being that it's able to manage all of the project data in a single infinite database. I'll repeat that. All of the project data in a single infinite database. That's not on offer by any other service provider that we know. We host this on Amazon Web Services, they being one of the largest and the most secure data hosting companies in the world. With the use of a single database, a large amount of costs are saved, and of course, a large amount of interfaces are eliminated. The manner in which the system delivers the data on any manufactured device that is able to access the internet enables a great and a vast increase in the productivity of both management and technical personnel. This in turn increases the visibility of project status and enables the team to focus on the tasks in hand, not losing time searching and evaluating information. This results in vast reductions in project expenditure. This results in vast reductions in project expenditure and of course, result in reduction in costs. Thank you for listening. Well, stumbled a bit.
Danny admitted to me he was a little bit nervous about doing the recording, but I told him everybody has to present at some point, and I'm just grateful for him that he was willing to do so. As I've said, I think that FNVI's a system in terms of reducing costs and making sure that they project manage operations with respect to big construction projects, big operational and logistics programs is something that's really important to all companies operating, particularly in challenging environments like those in sub-Saharan Africa. And as he mentioned, the single source or single platform that incorporates all the data in one place. It also gives me further pleasure to introduce to you Vincent Sebia, who is here today in person, representing Pinnacle Business Solutions. Vincent is going to come up and give a brief introduction, and then we've got a short video from the team in Scotland. So Vincent, if you want to come up, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think it's just after lunch here in South Africa. So my name is Vincent Sebia, Project Director of Pinnacle Business Solutions, a Scotland-based information systems company, which has been around for the last 26 years. In fact, Eric is going to cover some of those subjects in his video, but I've just gotten this opportunity to introduce myself before Eric goes ahead and introduces the company. And myself, I've been involved in project controls for the last 14, 15 years. And my journey with Pinnacle started 11 years ago through a company by the name of Group 5, which was then one of the top 5 companies back before they went bust, I think a couple of years ago. It wasn't my fault anyway. And it was there where I actually experienced the use of technologies being applied in a practical and an efficient manner in very complex and highly competitive project environments. And from then on, I have been running implementations globally for Pinnacle Business Solutions in Africa, in the Middle East, in the Far East, and we continue to do so in South America and in Australia. And what we have been involved in the last, I'd say, 2 years or so is very interesting projects around the space of research and development on having to look at how we can improve the efficiency of operations in fabrication and manufacturing by adaptation of mobile devices and augmented reality devices. And we look forward to having an engagement with anyone who's willing whilst we are here in terms of how we can use these technologies to increase their efficiencies and ensure the fact that they keep on top of their projects. Thank you so much, Laura.
Fabrication and construction of major renewable energy assets present project management teams with many challenges. Projects must be carefully managed to ensure delivery within tight time and cost constraints, also satisfying demanding customer requirements and adhering to international quality standards. Materials and equipment will include many specialized items supplied by the customer and also others which will be sourced from multiple vendors. Multidisciplinary project teams of engineers, operators and inspectors, both in-house employees and subcontract resources, will be involved in the execution of these major projects, and in turn many of these projects will be executed across multiple locations. The project management lifecycle must be efficiently managed from engineering design all the way through to commissioning and turnover. All costs must be carefully controlled and profit margins protected at every project stage. Close coordination of all project resources with both the ability and the agility to quickly respond to project deviations, both planned and unplanned, is essential to the success of the project. At Pinnacle, we understand the challenge of delivering within tight margins. Our matrix solutions are designed to keep our customers firmly in control of their projects, helping them to identify opportunities to secure profits, which are often to be found in very small spaces. Pinnacle Business Solutions has 26 years experience successfully supporting major engineering companies with the fabrication and construction of their major steelwork projects, both offshore and onshore. Traditionally, these projects were primarily in the oil and gas sector, nowadays increasingly renewables. We're currently supporting major customers involved in offshore wind farm developments in the UK, Europe, and in the Far East. The matrix solutions that we are providing to these major renewable energy projects have evolved from these same solutions that were previously supplied successfully to mega oil and gas projects worldwide. Matrix ensures complete control, visibility, and traceability throughout the entire construction project lifecycle, helping to minimize costs and maximize profitability.
Thanks, Vincent. Thank you, Eric, from Pinnacle. And our last session today, our last presentation today, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Howie Frylink from Pentagon Freight, also a company that is no stranger to the energy sector, but a company that is nonetheless also looking at the energy transition question and provides a vital cog in the supply chain for energy projects. Howie is based in South Africa, so he's also able to join us here today, and he's going to give us an introduction and then again just followed by a very short video before we head to some Q&A. Thanks, Howie.
Thanks, Laura. Geez, I feel awfully tall up here. Yeah, we should go play lock for a Scottish rugby team. Right, at first I need to apologize. My Scottish accent was lost by my great-grandfathers in 1820 when they left, but I'm going to do my best. And if you don't understand my Scottish, ask me, I'll repeat it in Afrikaans. Okay. So Pentagon Freight. Yeah, that's why would a South African in Cape Town present Pentagon Freight? That doesn't sound like a Scottish name. I'll tell you why. Pentagon Freight is a global international freight forwarder, but with a difference as our topic, think different. We are solely dedicated to the energy and resources sector and been involved in the UK in plenty of offshore wind projects. You know, when you do deal with the energy sector, you get to understand the demands and the challenges of moving cargo. And it's no different when it comes to wind turbines and oil and gas equipment. So we have a good understanding of all the challenges and the demands the energy sector brings. The other point is, you know, my wife often gets upset because I have other relationships, and it's usually your cargo and not someone else. And we feel so passionate about it that we, you know, dream, we move it, we eat it, we drink out of gauge cargo. Just to get back to where we fit in, as I mentioned, that we're already involved in offshore wind. And the methodology, whether it's offshore, onshore, in ways remains the same. We know that wind farms are not built on rugby fields or parking lots. It is challenging areas. It's rugged, it's rough. It is, in fact, Africa, where we are. And we understand that. We are specialists in our field of global forwarding, chartering of vessels, aircrafts. We have dedicated project teams. As I mentioned, we understand out-of-gauge cargo, project planning and feasibility, customs clearance, health and safety, and compliance. And those things you've heard from plenty of other freight forwarders. But the difference is, and if you've listened, you can win a Pentagon pen. I might have a card as well around here that I can share. Let me see. I, in fact, do have one. All right. And a mask, but it's used. Pentagon global revenue percentage out of pharmaceuticals. What percentage would that be? Anyone? 0. Okay, I keep the pen. In automotive, in any other sector, our percentage revenue is 0. But yet we are here today because our percentage revenue out of energy and resources industry is 100%. And that's the difference. Think different, that's the difference. We don't move things in little containers around. Containers are sometimes also big, but we don't move little things around. We are solely dedicated to the energy sector. What is our approach? Is to ensure that we remain safe and compliant in everything we do, to employ, retain, and empower great people like myself, to create and deploy amazing technology, like I have to read this, to treat our clients, colleagues, competitors, the communities with respect and integrity, and to be flexible and proactive. And on flexibility, how are we doing for time? Do I have time for a short story? Yeah, I do. All right, so here I'm on holiday in Spain with a friend of mine from the UK and his wife in the south. And we decided to do something different. My wife has never had paella, as we would say here, that is. And we decided that his wife doesn't eat this, and my wife eats that. And all we want to do is drink wine. So we need to find the perfect restaurant for this. And we walk up and down this little street in Figueroa. And we found this restaurant. Look at the menu, check it out. Nah, it's not going to work. This is shellfish. She doesn't eat shellfish. This one eats fish. And this chicken. No, next restaurant. And finally, we get to this restaurant. And there's this Spaniard now. He would be probably there now, but he used to be here. So we say to him, this is our scenario. We have the following, let's call it in project terms, scope. The following things we would like you to tell us about your paella. And rice, yes, it's all got rice, it's all got this, it's all got that. And he keeps quiet for a while. And me and my friend, we're talking, and he keeps quiet. And he walks up to us and he says, wait for this, he says. And on the top of his voice, he screams, flexible! And that's what we got. A fantastic paella that suited everybody's needs. And this is where we come in. We'll custom make it. We'll tailor make it. We'll put this order, this paella for you together for total customer satisfaction. And that's about it from Pentagon.